All right, so we'll declare the meeting open at 1 p.m. and welcome everybody to our June council meeting. Welcome to members of the public that are watching via live stream. And we also have Councillor Beard and Kapapihori Timahoi on Zoom. Welcome. And to anybody else out there that connects in with us as time progresses. Opening karakia, I believe is going to fall with Councillor Kesson.
Kia ora te mai, kia whakapapa pauname te moana. Hei hurahai ma tātou i te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou i tātou katoa.
Thank you very much, Ash, for that. Right, apologies. We have one apology from Councillor Davidson. I will move and second, please resolve that that apology be received and accepted. Councillor Manera, everybody, Councillor Collette, thank you very much. Declarations interest. There were no changes made to the interest register. As said previously, please ensure that it's kept updated as you have any changes to your own circumstances. Urgent items not on the agenda. And I've moved a second, please, so that we can resolve that in accordance with section 46A of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, the GOIMA, and under section 9.12 of Council's adopted standing orders, the following item be added as an urgent item not on the agenda for Council's consideration. And that is the Ernst & Young closing report for the audit of the 2025 to 2034 long-term plan. The reason the item is not on the agenda is the report was not received in time to be included on the agenda, and the reason why the discussion of the item cannot be delayed until a subsequent meeting is it is the close out for the long-term plan, which must be adopted by 30 June 2025. Also, with that, there's a withdrawal of agenda items in accordance with section 9.9 of Council standing orders. The following item has been withdrawn from the agenda, and that is the Hokitika Pool repair. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for that resolution? Councillor Casson, thank you very much. A seconder? Councillor Neal, thank you very much. All in favour? Right, minutes of meetings. The first one is the Ordinary Council meeting minutes of 29th May 2025. Resolution is that the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting held 29 May 2025. I have a mover and a second, please. Councillor Burden, sorry, Councillor Gillette, sorry. And I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed Ordinary Council meeting minutes of 29 May 2025. Secondly, we have the Extraordinary Council meeting minutes of 4th of June. And the resolution is that the minutes of the Extraordinary Council meeting held on 4th of June 2025 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Again, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Collette. Councillor Phelps, thank you very much. In favour to that. And I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed Ordinary Council meeting minutes of 4th of June 2025. And there are no minutes to be received from any standing committees. So next we move on to the action list, and we ask the Chief Executive to speak to this, please.
Thank you. So the Council meeting action list, the first item in the Council weekly is was to add that scheduled for the July Council meeting. The second item is Eki Waitawa Building. That again is being reporting back to the July Council meeting. So the third item, which is the Hokitika Museum Trust Reformation, that working group has met. The meeting on the 1st of July, and then the draft terms of reference will be brought to the 24th of July meeting for that full council consideration ahead of consideration for the establishing trust. Item number 4, the Hokitika CBD strategy. A meeting of the Hokitika CBD strategy group was held on Tuesday the 10th of June There will be another set of meetings that will be scheduled and will be reported back to the council post that next meeting, which I believe will be in July, but just will be confirmed. The fifth item is the West Coast Wilderness Trail. Meeting of the West Coast Wilderness Trail Working Group was held on 27th of May 2025, where the draft terms of reference were discussed. The terms of reference will be agreed upon at the next meeting to be heard in early July, with the exact date yet to be confirmed. Item 6, which was the scopes of Hokitika Airport, has been completed and will be removed from this list. All items, just to give everyone a bit of a heads up, all items that are removed from this list will be held on a table for removed items. So if anyone does want to report back to me at any time, they're on the list. Item 7, Hokitika Racecourse Development, the quarterly update is to be provided in July. Item 8, which was around the Lake Canary and one of the submissions from the LTP process. There were various items raised by one of the submitters, and I made the commitment that we would look for a roundtable, which will be held early July for having a discussion around those issues. Anything coming from that meeting, I will include in my CE report going forward. Item 9, Hokitika Westland Eyesight. And apologies, I have misread this, that the action was that Councillor Vernon asked to review what was resolved in the CCO workshop meeting relating to the eyesight. I misunderstood that and thought that that was about the CCO review process. I'll need to go back to the workshop, which I think was held 2 years ago, and look at the minutes of that and bring that forward. I'll circulate that out of meeting agenda, but for the next meeting it needs to be raised. If you may, through the chair, one of the items I would like to talk though about the eyesight, because it's one of those issues that have been particularly contentious here. And one of the things that's been raised with me over some time is not just about the location, but I guess around what are the processes that we as a council need to be thinking and you as councillors need to make as a decision. And what I'd like to propose is that rather than just looking while we have this issue of the eyesight location and whether it continues and in what form and what is the council's investment or not in it, I would suggest that there are other services that we provide that contribute to the tourist experience here. And I would like to have a wider brief on what are those contributing services, restoration, Hokitika, etc., that contribute to the wider view of what happens to the tourism expectation, and what would be the council's expectation of where they see themselves involved in that, because I think that's a wider issue than just looking at one particular service. So I'd like to propose that I bring a paper back to the council that does cover that. I'm more than happy to cover your item, Councillor Vernon, and bring that back, but I would suggest that a wider brief would give us more benefit from looking at a tourism experience for Westland than just looking at what we're doing in sort of piecemeal services. We have got a few of them around that we're investing in. Let's have a look at the collective and then get a view from you folk about what it is you would look to see as an expectation. So I'll bring that paper back. And can I also just say that one of the unintended consequences of having an ongoing discussion about some of the services that the council provide, particularly public-facing services, is that it can have a negative effect on staff that are trying to provide excellent services to whoever walks through the door, whether that's in the reception or in eyesight or anywhere else. And I'm particularly aware that we have folk that are part of Westland District Council who work really hard to be the best representative they can be in these services, particularly I note with reception, but also mainly with the eyesight. And I would hate to think that they were negatively impacted because of some of the conversations that have been happening in the community, because they believe that the eyesight becomes the contentious issue rather than how the service is delivered. So I'd just like to make a fairly big thank you to those eyesight staff and to the reception staff for the services that they provide for us as representatives on behalf of the council to the tourists and the public that come through that door, irrespective of whether we as a council believe that we should be delivering those services in the way they do. So I'd just like to put that on record, please. Thank you.
Thanks, right, so the resolution is that the updated action list from the Chief Executive be received and those items completed be removed from the list. You want to? Yes, happy to. Yes, yes, sorry.
Through your worship, the sort of eyesight, so that's quite a change of direction from the position that we had previously.
By providing through the chief, by providing the paper. That's it. Well, currently you have a process, I believe, in play of looking at whether the eyesight should continue in its current form and whether the council should be supporting it in its current format, correct?
Correct.
I'm not suggesting that that is altered, that stream of work needs to continue, and I will feed back to Councillor Verdon on what the outcome of the workshop you held 2 years ago to get that direction, and that will come back to the council. What I am suggesting though is that rather than just do that one piece of work, I think that there's a need for a wider look at what are we expecting from the tourism expectations coming, or the experience coming into Westland, and is that something we should be concerned about or interested in, because we do fund several other services.
Is that a council function?
I don't know, that's why I thought,
That's my question.
well,
That's my question. Is that really a council function? No, do you say it's not?
We've, in the last annual plan and current long-term plan, that we do a review of our tourism promotion rate. From what Barb's saying, that sits roughly aligned to that, whether it's
About the proposed promotion rates, that's one.
which fund some of the activity she's talking about.
Yeah. But if this review is confined to that, then no problem.
it's not intended to be a formal review of going back through line. All I was doing was wanting to bring a discussion paper back to the council that provided the overview of the services you are currently supporting through the ratepayer funding to looking at these types of services, and whether we, because when I look at it, I don't see it in one place. It seems to be fragmented, and I think there's a real value, if we're looking for value for money, that we have the discussion around, with us providing you with information to support that discussion about, is this where we should be investing? Are these the right places? And do we have any expectations as a council about what we should be investing in for the tourism experience going forward? And it may be all or nothing, Councillor, but I just thought that it would be worth bringing it to the attention of the council.
Okay, if it's going to clarify what is the council's function in collecting the rate, for instance, for national, what is the what is the funding capacity of the country for those tourism rates? If it's about clarity of that, I'll move forward.
Any further questions for Barb?
Just a point, further comment on the administrative stuff on section 5, that meeting's going to be Monday, 14th of July. And in terms of reference, we're adopting the commission as the next that will be finalised, just to provide recent updates there.
Thanks, Ashley. Any further questions?
Just for the chair, just 2 years seems to be dragging on a little
On the eyesight?
bit. Yeah, we made a decision 2 years ago and we're still reviewing it.
Noted. So, yeah, so that's noted, but so if you want that on the agenda going forward, please, yeah, please advise, do. Right, so the resolution is that the updated action list from the Chief Executive be received and those items completed be removed from the list. Do I have a move for a seconder, please? Councillor Verdon, thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Manera, thank you very much. In favour? It's very quiet. Right, moving on to the presentations. First one is the cyber security training, and Michael Schumacher is, here he is. Yeah, thanks Michael. Technology Infrastructure Officer to talk to us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to present to Council this afternoon on Council's Cyber Security Awareness Training Program. If I may address the Council through the Chair. Some quick stats on the screen for you to have a look at as you want while I talk. The threat landscape in terms of cybersecurity is changing rapidly with AI introducing some new threats. AI now writes or can assist in writing malware. This significantly reduces the time between a vulnerability being discovered and it being exploited. It also improves the quality of the writing in scam messages, which makes it harder for us humans to detect things that we used to pretty easily. Phishing attacks are now so prevalent that it's more likely than not in a given year that an organisation like ours will fall victim to a cybersecurity event, phishing initiated. It's also possible with the right setup that malware triggered by any user account on any of our devices could spread through the network, compromising all systems and all data that we hold. Good cybersecurity heavily depends on the behaviour of people. Social engineering attacks, such as phishing, exploit human vulnerabilities rather than system flaws. So the human component can't be ignored. We can't rely entirely on our systems to protect our organisation. To that end, Council has partnered with a group called Nova4 to deliver cybersecurity awareness training and testing for our systems and our user responses. This training is mandatory for all people that operate a council-controlled mailbox, so that's all employees, all volunteers, contractors, and elected officials such as yourself. The training courses are regularly updated to ensure that they're kept up to date with current exploit methods, which recently has included voice spoofing, AI video, live chats, and link changing. So that means while a link may be perfectly legitimate when the email is received by our system, it then gets redirected to point to something malicious later. Courses are appropriate for New Zealand context, and it's New Zealand partners that produce a lot of our test messaging. Council's chosen to push a 45-minute training course for everyone to do. This has been selected because it's the shortest course that covers the important aspects we need you to know about, including URL breakdown and modern phishing techniques. And we're expecting that each year we'll do a 15-minute, partly a refresher, but also a what has changed in terms of methodology for phishing. Each mailbox gets random tests periodically. This enables Council to measure the success of this program and understand its risk areas and its overall risk level. If users click on one of our simulation test messages, then they're automatically enrolled in a refresher training that's appropriate for the link, for the relevance of the email they've clicked. The system generates reminder emails and reports on both the training and the simulation test. So how are we doing? An initial assessment showed that we're We have users across our organisation have an average score of 70% compared with the local government, or actually New Zealand government, average of 64%. So we're slightly better. 80% of our users participated in the assessment, and the initial tests show that we had a click rate of 25%, so that's a quarter of all of our users failed for the initial test. Since then, that has reduced to 4%, and the click rate of those that have not completed the training is 3 times that of those that have. So testing clearly indicates that the training is effective. And the second slide here is just showing you what it looks like, our process for how to report that. Advice now is that if you receive a message that reports to come from staff, but say something that you're not expecting, use an alternative communication method to check with the source before you take any action. Madam Chair, Council, thank you for your time and support of this program.
Thank you, Michael, for that. Any questions for Michael? I think Michael's probably got just a comment to make for us, is to please actually get on and do the training. And don't be afraid of making mistakes, because if there's things here that we don't know, we've misinterpreted or don't fully comprehend, we need to ensure that we do to protect the system.
Madam Chair, Michael, with the council's access to the system via email and Teams portal, what sort of worst case outcomes are we looking at from a councillor's access to the whole system? How risky is our profile compared to employees of the council?
I don't want to say it's exactly the same, but given the right exploits, it could be just as destructive as any internal user. The devices themselves are domain joined, which means they have the ability, given the right exploit, to permeate the entire network and compromise all data we hold on all systems.
So divulging a username and password on a councillor account could gain access to the rest of the system?
Not in isolation, but it could trigger that, yes.
And just a comment, because I did that training in the end, but I can see an existential kind of threat really with AI and social media. The two combined are the end of society. There's no way. It's going to get harder and harder. The more and more stuff you put online, on social media, the more the AI tools will spoof and improve forgery. It's terrible.
I don't disagree with you, but this was not intended to scare anyone into saying all of our systems need to be offline. There are good measures to protect our organisation, but what this presentation was indicating is that the system alone is not enough. We need users to be aware and take corrective action when they see things that they've been trained to.
So with the current exploits, is it more to do with account compromisation and phishing attacks rather than malware? Where's the malware is related to the platform hardware, ultimately, by installing some sort of code that's going to run. It seems like looking at the training course, more focus is on account compromisation.
Yes.
Yeah. So the platform's not quite. If you're accessing stuff through a browser, you're still highly at risk.
Accessing email. Okay, yep. So accessing a compromising email through a browser could still trigger the install of malware, while the device that you're accessing it on is network connected, that gives opportunity for the right malware, not all, but if coded in the worst case, as you say, potentially compromising our whole system. Possible. I wouldn't say likely, but possible.
Thank you.
Through the chair, can I just, sorry, one of the things we talked about was for the training. If anyone around the table wishes to come a little bit earlier to a council meeting and just ask any questions or want to have know anything about the training, if you just let Michael know or they're more than happy to come up just a little bit ahead of time. So they just make the offer available to the councillors. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Michael, for your time.
Just a comment, you can speed the voice up as well. If the talking a bit slow and you haven't got enough time to do the training, you can speed it up to 1.5 times.
Yes, correct.
It's way quicker. And you're talking it.
May I add one thing?
Yes, certainly, Michael.
I missed a point, and I know this comes up a wee bit, is the training can be done in parts. So it's a 45-minute training, but it's made up of several components. They're usually videos of about 5 minutes. So in between each of those, you can close out. If you return to it, it'll carry on from where you got up to.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that. Highly appreciate it.
It's also really good information actually for other areas of our lives as well.
Right, so next on the agenda we have Biddy with the Total Bridge petition. Biddy, welcome to the table.
Thanks, Mayor Lash and councillors for supporting us in. Emma Thomas was going to be here, but she had to go for work somewhere off the coast for a couple of days, so apologies for her, as she was one of the ones that did organised the online petition for us for the Save the Rail Bridge. We've got a large number of signatures here. That's the original copy. And we've also got a whole lot of other background information on the history of the bridge and the engineer that was part of it. He was born and raised in Ross, educated at Ross School and Western High School, internationally renowned and highly regarded around the world. He was a big time engineer, civil engineer for the government actually at the time. And I'm also speaking for Arthur Thompson. Him and I both have the same colourful language. Yeah, big ups to Arthur for saving the bridge originally. So we would really like, as you know, the group, the Save the Ross Total Rail Bridge, is under the auspice of the Information Centre, which I'm chair of. We would really like to be able to list it, to get the support from the council so we can list it with Heritage New Zealand to protect it, preserve it. We've got a lot of people in Ross that are very talented and skilled people that know stuff. And all these people in Ross have put their hand up. The very first meeting that we had in Ross was one of the best meetings I've ever been to. There was kids, there was adults, all walks of life. And there was about 50 people there. It was a really respectful meeting. Everyone listened, people were passionate, and everyone, it's the first time I've seen that community really totally united, and you witnessed that when you came down that day. Everyone was there. We knew the bridge was going to get closed that day, but everyone was there just to prove their point. And a newcomer to Ross, who's been there over a year now, Mandy Hoskin, she did a really neat sign, and it was just save the bridge, save our town. And all those new people to Ross call it our bridge. And it's so important to Ross. We've lost so much heritage structures of Ross and areas, and you know, Information Centre, we're heritage and as well. And that's our income in Ross now. You know, there's mining there. The miners wouldn't have known anything about the gold had it not been for the old people archiving, registering everything. My family's involved in that from 1864 right through. My grandmother was the one that gave Phil May, the historian that wrote all the books on the gold deposits and everything in Ross, gave him a fair bit of his information. He picked her brain. And that filters down through the entire community. And we're teaching our kids that. We include the kids in their heritage in Ross, and that bridge is their bridge as well, as Oscar and Lily pointed out, aren't his grandkids. So we would really like the council to support us to go that one step. You know, we've been in touch with New Zealand Heritage Rail Trust. I've given them information they didn't know, and they've given me. We've had Heritage Bridge engineers, Rail Trust engineers come in and sign this, and they can't believe that it's going to be. We don't want to have it to be neglected. It's our Eiffel Tower. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Vinnie. I know your heart and soul has gone into this, as it has done with quite a few of the Ross residents in there. And just, you know, the research you've done, but also the work that you've put into this petition on its own, and also the conversations you've had with Heritage New Zealand around what you can and can't do. It's been very respectfully done and very hard driven, and I acknowledge that. So does anybody have any questions for me at this stage before we receive the petition? So Councillor Gant.
I can answer the Chair. So you've spoken to Heritage New Zealand about that?
Yeah.
And what's their view on?
They've said the first thing we need to do is to get your support, because you're the official owners of the bridge, councillors, so that we can then take that step to have it listed with a lot more information.
Did they see material for a heritage structure?
I haven't been able to have that big a conversation, but I have been in talks with Mike Gillies, who's now working with the Department of Conservation, who was the structural dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, the head of this area. Yeah. I haven't even supplied the, I mean, there's no point supplying anything to Heritage New Zealand until we can get the support from here, you know. Well, that's how I think. You know, the original plans were given to us by New Zealand Heritage Rail Trust.
Through the Chair, Earl, what would it mean to council if that bridge became a heritage?
Through the Chair, that would be have to be determined whether it means that we've got long-term maintenance liability for it, or whether we strip the asset down to its bare form and take the cycle trail additions that were put on off. I don't know. We'll have to talk from here.
Through the Chair, Earl, wouldn't we be putting a noose around our own neck if we ever decided we wanted to take the bridge down and would then put the crown of heritage classification on it and makes it impossible to do anything to it?
Potentially, yes. If it goes into heritage status, then it's very difficult to do any work on it, and it will really depend on what heritage would require with regard to maintenance long term.
So there's quite a bit of work to be done around, we can receive the petition, but there's quite a bit of work to be done on where that goes next, and then repercussions or impacts or liabilities, etc. will have to be looked into. And we have ongoing conversations about those findings, because you'll be required to do some conversations with Heritage New Zealand, as we'd be expected to do the same, and we keep the conversation going. Paul, you wanted to?
It was the same question.
Same question.
But just to add to that, we had that issue, of course, with St Mary's Church. When Jim Keenan pushed through the heritage status of the church, we all thought that was wonderful, but it turned out to be an impediment. And so it needs to look at it very carefully.
So, no, that's good. Yes.
So you'll see, I sent that through the Nigel Beats report. You'll see in there, like, you know, there was wood, I think it was, you know, it was all Australian hardwood, and that would cost, you know, an arm and a leg if anything was, you know, to import it to the country, whatever. Well, there's actually New Zealand native timber in that bridge as well, because it's mentioned in here. So, yeah, there's all sorts of different, like, yeah, we want to keep on talking with the engineers, the Rail Trust engineers that we've encountered, and get their expertise compiled, and go as far as we can. It would be really, really good if we can, I mean, if you consider it, to work with us, like, we really want to work with the council to try and get something positive for Ross.
No, I absolutely appreciate that, Biddy, and heartily agree with that. We've got to have a resolution there on the bridge and its future, and we know what it means to the township, and I think that's more along the lines of what I just said before, is that you do your work, we do our work, and we work together collectively, and as we go through the different questions or expectations or processes that are put in front of us, and come out to a findings at the end of it. But we do it together, so we know what one another's thinking and where we're going with it, and bring anybody to the table that needs to be brought into it. So,
You just through the chair, so I just want to acknowledge the work you've done on this, and there's a lot of people supporting it. So we need to give some direction as to where we go next with this. What do we?
well, first off, we'll receive and accept the petition from Ross Goldfields Information and Heritage Centre through Biddy. We'll acknowledge receipt of that, and then we will look to perhaps coming together and forging a plan on the work program that's going to go, because we might as well do it side by side as far as with Heritage New Zealand, us with our responsibilities.
I'm sure the chair, I'll make contact with Heritage New Zealand, have a talk with Biddy, and then find out from them what the implications are. The implications are of that by becoming a heritage item. Long-term maintenance or non-maintenance, what you can't do, all that type of thing.
We just need to make sure we cover all the bases so that there is no gaps, no room for errors or it is, but it's also making sure that all gaps are closed up, so the risks or indemnities are covered off as well. So we'll take care of putting that work program together for this, and as he said, he'll make contact with you, Billy, and we'll get this going moving forward. If you're happy with that. Yeah. Thank you. So can I have somebody please move that we accept the presentation and receive the petition, please, from Billy. Councillor Gillett, Councillor Neil. Thank you very much, and thanks, Buddy, very much. I appreciate it. And retrospectively too, it's been at Michael's time. Can I please have somebody accept the presentation given by Michael? Shoemaker, please. Thanks, Councillor Neil. Councillor Gillett, thank you very much. And next we welcome Captain Max Dow, QSM, to speak to his item, which is a continuation of the history of our council building that we started in the long-term plan procedure. Welcome, Max.
The first time I came to this site was a police camp. I used to come in from Cockatide with my grandmother, and we used to leave the horse here in the police stables. This was long before this building was ever built. I need to talk about several things. The first one I want to talk about is the Pioneer statue down here in the next block. The Pioneer statue was stolen by Jackie Grant and Durham Havel, and they took it round from its original site. It was pointing in those days to where gold was discovered in Stafford, in Goldsboro. It's been moved down here, and it's now pointing the wrong direction. The reason it's pointing that direction was across the road over there. Jackie Grant had a shop there, and it was pointing to her shop. Now that's not history. Yeah, this is what goes on. The Port of Hokitika. I used to work at the Port of Hokitika. It was the biggest port in New Zealand. 42 ships one time tied up at the wharf. I'm the only person that's named them. I've got the copies of all of them. I've been involved at the bar out there with the harbour master, my older brother and myself, and we'd go and sound the bar. I would sound the Maidenhead. And that's the way it used to be. And I was the police advisor for Marine Search and Rescue from Bluff to Farewell Spit. I'm still involved with the marine radios at home at 91 years of age. All the fishing boats in trouble call me. And this is why I get annoyed over things getting changed. The Pioneer statue should go back to where it is. It was originally there. The foundations are still there, the marble platform underneath it, and all the lights are still there. And it was pointed to Stafford. I know of that because the hand got broken off it. And I made a mould and repaired that stand in my younger days. And that's how it should be. Got to put my glasses on to see my notes. The Fox Moth. It was upheaval and the Lotto funded display at the shelter. I built that Fox Moth. I built that at the county sheds at Canary. I had assistance from some of the county people. It was a Lotto funded building and it's been taken off there and now it's in Heritage Park and you've got to pay to go in and see it. Now this is how history, with newcomers come along, their version of our history. And I've got a photographic memory. I can remember everything that happened in my entire life. Paul Mazurek will know that. Won't you, Paul? I first knew Paul when he was only a little girl. A little His older brother used to rush out to see me. You know why? Because I had minties in my pocket. And I've been involved all over the coast, and I'm still involved with the coast. Now, it annoys me how many things change. The ammunition shelter taken out down there on the way to the south, the mouth of the river, it was broken and shifted away. That was part of history. The Stafford Cemetery interfered with that. There was gates at the front of it. There was no road through the middle of it. The Lions stole that project and put a road through the middle. How do they know that the road through the middle is not over old unmarked graves? This is what goes on. Surf rescue container. I was involved with the surf rescue for the whole of this west coast. We had it in a container. It was down at the end of Wells Street here. Once they put the rock along, we had no access to get the container into the surf boat into the water, so we shifted it down to the top of the ramp down here there. One night after dark, it was shifted across the road and put in a parallel park at 45 degrees, and it was twisted. The doors jammed and we couldn't get it out. And I've been out many, many times with that lifeboat. Destination Westland. the senator in Cass Square, they took the senator down. It was for the soldiers that lost their lives in World War I from illegal. They turned around and they put it, and when they put it back up, they got the Maoris to put something underneath it. The Zingara chain taken from the Tambo. Now the Tambo, I built the Tambo, not the Lions. They never put $1 into it, but they stole it. And if you go down to the Tambo now and go to the bow of it and look over around the other side, there's rocks there, you'll find my name on the marble statue for it. And this is what makes me annoyed, how people come in and change and take off our history. The naming of a street by an ex-mayor, Raymond Bruce Smith. They never consulted to the ratepayers. They just went and did it. And that's not right. It should not be happen without the ratepayers who pay all of your wages and fund this building. They should have consulted with the ratepayers before they did that. My eyes are not very good at 91 years of age. The Ross Cemetery sold and then had to be repurchased because the RSA building, another concept plan and money paid to the property company to make it access for the swimming pool. Anthea Keenan and another friend of hers and myself raised all that money for that building now. The amount of money I raised for it was several $100,000. It was what it was I made a little wee box, like a jewellery box, with a curved lid over it. And Alistair Cameron gave me a piece of gold, about half an ounce, a flake of it. I put it in there and I put a curved mirror over the top of it. So when you opened it up, it looked 10 times the size. And I had a lot of fun selling that. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars for that building. It was won by someone in Auckland. I used to go down the street and see people walking down the street, particularly old ladies, and I'd get on my knee with this and I'd say, please say yes, and it looked like an engagement box, and I'd open it up, and that's how I sold so many of those tickets on it.
Frank, Max, you've got 3 minutes remaining of speaking.
I've only got 3 minutes.
Left.
Who makes that decision?
Well, that would give you 20 minutes in total, once that time's gone.
The Fox Moth. If you go to Harry Harry, there's an airplane in the building down there. I designed and built that at no cost to Harry Harry. I worked at Harry Harry for a number of years, and that's it. But anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope that something changes instead of our history being interfered with by people who don't know our history. As I've said before, under the Marine, I was responsible for safety of life at sea from Farewell Spit to Bluff. And most of my life was that, out to sea here as well. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Max, that's greatly appreciated.
Max, I'd like to just acknowledge the amount of community work that Max has done over his lifetime. He's been involved in a lot of projects. And Max, it's hugely appreciated, a lot of the work that you have done on those projects. And I can understand your frustration with some of the things, but that doesn't take away from what you have put in. So thank you.
Yeah. Now, Madam Mayor, you were crew on your husband's boat.
I was what?
You were crew on your husband's boat.
When his crew had time off, yes.
And I've got all the records at home since 1960 of every fishing boat that fished out along this coast. And I've got those records handwritten at home. This is how much knowledge I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max.
Yeah, Max.
Can I please have somebody just, we accept Captain Dale's presentation, please? You wanted to?
No.
No.
I'm just going to say, if I may.
Yes, certainly.
I mean, listening to Max's litany of roles, but some of that I do have sympathy with. Some of it, in regard to heritage and the changes to history, and the timing is not lost on me anyway, with the museum reopening tomorrow. When I was a little girl, I remember the pioneer statue was around the Conservative Street. And I don't want to relitigate all of that, but what I do want to say is that one of the reasons it was given for movement of that was A, because it was being vandalised around there, and B, because it was overshadowed by a Pahutakawa tree. And the Pahutakawa tree, and I might add, all the record is nothing but a weed. It's not even from here, it comes from the North Island, and wasn't even planted in very long, so that quickly weeds. And all it needed to do was chop the bloody thing down. And would be no reason to have moved the pioneer statue. That's all I want to say on that.
Thank you very much. Right, thank you, Paul. So can I please just have somebody accept Captain Dale's presentation, please? Councillor Neal, thank you very much. Somebody want to second that? Councillor Pearson, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Captain Dale. Now, moving on to staff reports, infrastructure strategy and activity management plans adoption. Alicia, sorry, let's see where you've gone to. You want to come and join us, please?
Through the Chair, we would like to present the report for the adoption of the infrastructure strategy and activity management plans. So you previously seen these in March where we had the drafts and they went out to consultation for a month with the LTP. There are 9 AMPs for 6 activities, and then the caveat one being that transport was previously adopted but we wrote an addendum, and then you also find the infrastructure strategy. So the AMPs are for 10 years and the infrastructure strategy is for 30 years. I'd just like to acknowledge the staff that also helped out writing these AMPs. It's a big lot of work, but it should give you guys a really good solid infrastructure plan for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia, and yes, certainly please convey our gratitude to everybody involved with this because it was a significant piece of work, but work that had to be done, so it's great to now be there with that, so thank you. Anybody have any questions for Alicia, please?
Just other than the changes or amendments you've noted, are there any other changes that need to be read?
Good question. Does it also include the new Hokitika Gorge swimming bridge?
Through the Chair, sorry, include as in the asset is in the plan? No, because that hasn't been vested yet and built, so there's a bit of a time delay for those sorts of things. So that will be in our next 1 and 2 years. Yep.
So this will avoid the being sprung on certain failing assets like we have been with the Totara Bridge, with the Ross, swimming pool, roof, etc. Yes.
Yes. That is the foundation to the work that's gone into this to ensure that those gaps are closed up from the past. Anything further for Alicia, please? Donna, no? Right, so can I have a move and second, please, so that we can resolve that the report be received and that council adopts the 2025-26 through to 2054-55 infrastructure strategy and activity management plan. Thank you. Councillor Burden, Councillor Pearson, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alicia, very much for that. Good sound report. Our Chief Executive's just seen Captain Dow out there.
In the meantime, the agenda item that was taken off, is that going to come back to us?
Yes, in July, yes. So the pool, that is the swimming pool that he's referring to, that will be back on July's agenda. The long-term plan adoption, we require Ernst & Young to be part of that, and with that we have a report to receive, so we will do that in the confidential section, and then once we've had that, we will then bring the long-term plan adoption back out into the public section of the meeting, where we will then formalise the long-term plan for the next duration of time. So they're really quite clear about that. It's a reverse of what we were going to be doing, but it gives it a lot more clarification. It allows us to have the conversation with the auditors and receive their report and then come back out into the public section to extend that conversation. Right.
Can we talk about the LTP now?
No, we're going to move that over to confidential and then bring it back out into, so we can receive the auditor's report and then come back out into the open part of the meeting and discuss the long-term plan then.
The genuine discussion about the LTP.
My understanding is that conversation will be had in the following confidential section, which enables us to have a conversation around the auditor's report with the auditor, to then come back and to have the full and frank around the long-term plan. It's just no conversations being moved other than schedule change.
So we're not avoiding any conversation, it will just give us more information to hold a better line of conversation, because we will have the auditor's report.
Yes, which is focused on certain matters. So, but regardless of that, I'm just talking about some of the bits and bobs.
But that's what we'll be coming back to talk about. I'm not sure where the Chief Executive is. She was just helping Captain Dow out of the building so he didn't get lost in the lift or the stairwell.
I'm happy to move that motion too.
Thanks, Councillor Pearson. Can I second please to run that through? Thank you, Councillor Manera. So we will take that and offline with the public excluded for the report from the auditors, and then come back into public for the long-term plan adoption and further discussions along that line of work. So the rates resolution item has been taken out of order to the agenda also. So Leslie,
We can't adopt the rates resolution.
yes, to GP, so that also has to go back to that. So, righto, so we'll move on to the financial performance, because I see that Chippin's here. Thank you, young sir. So if you'd like to present the financial performance report, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. Through Your Worship, I present the financial report to May 2025. I'll take it as read, and through Your Worship, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Cody. All right, questions, please.
Page 68 of the agenda. 68.
Sorry, yes, it does help to have that, doesn't it? councillor Gay.
Through Chair, Cody, so the variance keeps creeping up more. So nothing in percentage of revenue. Where are we going with this? The bulk of it, I assume.
You refer to grants?
Yes. Are we going to get those?
So the majority of the variance to those grants relates to the transport. After we finalised the budget last year, there were some changes made to the transport funding, to what we're expecting to receive for the year, and that's what that relates to. So essentially, we won't be receiving what's currently sitting in that budget. We're expecting to receive more closely what we put in the forecast.
So we won't be, this 4.4 million we won't be getting, or?
It's been reallocated.
What does that mean?
Which, at this point, I prefer to refer that question to District Assets.
Through the chair, last November, there was a transportation update brought to council, and there was a really good graph on there, and it showed the gap between what we had actually got and determined and approved by yourselves in the enhanced annual plan compared to what came later, which was an approved NZTA funding, and it clearly showed the gap and stated in there would be a 4.4 gap between what we actually received and what we'd actually budgeted for. So in that instance, we already had a shortfall, and that was going to be carried all the way through the actual year.
So how's that short? So we've spent money, we spent money on infrastructure which we won't get funded for. So how's that going to be funded? Is that built into the LTP as a rates increase, as a debt implication?
No, what that is, it means we're not getting that revenue. So we've adjusted the transportation spend, the actual expenses side, to align with what we were going to get, what was approved by NZTA. But because the budget is set with a certain amount of revenue in there, and we're not getting that, it's immediately a gap, a loss. Right? And it's basically a permanent timing difference, because we had a timing where we had to approve our plan to the timing where we had an approved budget. So it's a permanent timing difference for that revenue. We won't get it, but the actual expenditure has been adjusted to align with what was approved by NZTA.
So when you say the expenditure has been adjusted, have we actually spent, or is it just a budget?
Now that I will have to defer to Mr.
Yes, some of the.
Is it a real cost?
No, it's not no, it's not. What I mean is some of the work efforts and work streams have been reduced to matching with funding that's available. Our work programs has been reduced.
So how does that flow through to the next financial year? What you're saying is if it's a timing thing, we'll readjust our revenue budget so that aligns with the funding from NZTA.
Well, because it's a 3-year budget from NZTA, when we prepare the annual, the LTP, we now know what was approved, so that is brought into the LTP. It's just that we haven't got an approved, which usually it's earlier, isn't it, that we get an approved NZTA budget?
The new government changed the structure.
Yeah, so they changed the structure and we didn't have it for adoption of the enhanced annual plan at the time. But because we did for the LTP budgeting, that should flow through to that.
Yes, okay, something
Two questions. First one being, just for benefit of clarity, who wants to answer, $4.26 million grant funding was what we budgeted, or more than what we've got. We have a gap whereby the grant funding hasn't come in. First question. So it's thinking hasn't come in, nothing's been. Second question. Nothing has been expended against that. We've not been able to deficit around our transport budget, and we've spent money we didn't get. Thank you.
Paul?
Through your worship, so this is, as I recall, this was the reallocation of works that we discussed previously.
Yeah.
And there was like fuel footpath repairs and
correct.
sealing was scaled right back, and there was a bit of a gamble because of the timing. There was a bit of a gamble as to what NZTA would fund, because it was unknown.
Yeah.
They were going to let us know the following week, or something like that, or something crazy like that. So this is not exactly unknown.
No.
We did talk there.
Yeah, it was the November 28th council meeting. You want to talk about the audit costs for the LTP? And the different, what that.
Well, that has been spoken about previously. But the variance to the audit cost to the LTP mainly relates to the fact that the LTP didn't occur last year. It was deferred 1 year, and the budget was set last year, so it's a carryover budget. That's the reason for the $219,000 variance that I've got sitting in there.
So at the August council meeting, council adopted the carryover report, which included a carryover of the LTP audit fee. How that works is that we budgeted for it in the previous year and it wasn't spent, so that creates a positive variance in the accounts for last year because we've not spent it, but we've rated for it, so we've got the revenue. Now, obviously, we carried that over because we didn't do the LTP last year. We carried that forward, so we carried forward this amount, but we don't re-budget it. And the reason for that is we've already collected the rates to fund it. So we carry it over, and in this year, it then shows as a negative variance because we haven't got that funding to offset it. So that is part of the variances as well.
Since we're working our way through the list of items there, the 500,000 for road recovery, I see that's mentioned on the sheet that it is fully recoverable. When are we going to invoice for that? Because it doesn't appear in the details list currently.
It has been invoiced through the transport grants. It becomes part of that, the transport revenue. Most of it has been. Some of it is expenditure that's happened more recently, hasn't been invoiced for yet, but most of it, about 400,000, I think, has already been invoiced for and received.
And the understanding with NZTA is once the invoice goes into that, it's paid, fully agreed upon, there's no issue there.
Just to clarify, we don't invoice them. We actually put the cost through a portal and it's approved and paid to us that way so that you won't see anything indebted to that.
Exactly. But confirming the 500,000 is 100% going to be funded back through a portal.
It should be because it's over the 100,000.
So our year end expected figure, our projected figure for year end now is sitting at what?
For sorry?
For our final year end projected figure, so we've gone from a 4.1 deficit to a 1.1, and now we're projecting we're going to be at 400k deficit. Is that still accurate?
That is the forecast that we've set for now. Yes, that's as accurate as we can get it, based off of the work that we've done over the past couple of months with budget managers.
So is there any way that we can address that, being that we've got limited time now before the end of financial year, it will be a deficit that we'll be looking at?
We will probably be looking at a deficit for the reasons that we've already explained and the non-cash swaps as well. And I think to say that we're confident that it will do that is a little bit of a stretch. We are confident that our known information at this point in time that is where we will be. But that doesn't take into account the year-end adjustments that we have to undertake at year-end. And generally, we don't know about those till after year-end. And those are things like disposals of assets. There could be a loss on those. Again, market factors, the non-cash swaps could change dramatically. And we don't know until we get that information, which comes externally. But from the known information that we have, that's what we're looking at. But those variances above are the reason that we've got a deficit.
Right, thank you, Stacey. Just for the top table and to this end, if we can all just ensure we speak up, because for clarity, they need to have crystal clear audibility on Zoom. Councillor Casey.
To re-ask Mia-Nash's question in a different light, is what you just answered to her question, saying the best possible outcome is a $123,000 deficit, and there's unknowns that will add to that. We don't see that getting any sweeter, if I can use that word to describe that position.
This is what we know. I can't really say anything more than that, and I'm not prepared as an accountant to say that that is going to be, I'm confident in it. You know, we've sat down with our budget managers. The finance team has been and done an exercise with them to really interrogate the final figures at this stage, because we're so far in the year we could do that. Kind of a difficult thing to forecast early on in the year because there's so much happening. You never know what's going to happen. But we have sat down with them. We've really interrogated their numbers and what they believe they've still got to come, whether they believe there's going to be cost variances, overruns. This is what we've come up with from that. And there's not an awful lot more we can do other than that. You know, that's how it, finance don't have the answers. We have to rely on other areas of council to interrogate their budget and to understand their budget.
Through the chair, in regard to district assets delivery, we're still in the financial year, so we're still trying to deliver our programs, or at least the last of our programs. You get an extra week like we have at the moment, it affects our final outcome. So there are some variances up and down, but you know, we're pretty confident in the figures. I think it can always be.
Yeah, and as Elle just said, if you go back to 2015, 29th of June 2015, and we had a massive flood in town, and that created lots of issues for us, and that was just 2 days before the year end. And so there are unknowns, and we are having a bit of a weather thing going on at the moment. So.
Respect both the comments you're making and appreciate the uncertainty and no crystal ball, because we don't want that either. I guess, another version of the same question, you don't often see these unknowns come in as positive budget variances, do you? They're normally negatively geared.
Yeah, but dependent on what happens in the market, the swaps could change, you know, so that could help, but it's unlikely. But yeah.
Any further questions for Cody or Leslie, please?
I should know this, but when do we expect to get the final information?
We won't have information until end of August, really, because we rely on external agencies and suppliers, market factors that filter through to us to actually get all that information. We can start getting some idea, but there are still things we won't be able to say with confidence is the end result. And then, of course, we've got to go through audit, which may determine that something needs to be treated differently than it is being for some reason. Hopefully not, but you just never know.
And through the chair, final figures for construction works, etc. I mean, if they finish at the end of June, they invoice at the end of June, it gets paid at the 20th of July, then you get your financial information after that, which is August.
And we have to accrue that back.
Anything further? On the screen. Right, so the resolution is that the financial performance report for 31st May 2025 be received. I move and second, please. Councillor Neil, Councillor Manera, all in favour? Against? Very quiet. Carries. Thank you very much, Cody, for that.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated, Leslie. Right, next on the agenda is the deed of transfer functions under RMA, and we'll hand over to the Chief Executive for that one too, please.
Thank you. Chair, can I just say, sorry, the paper that went forward in terms of deed of transfer under the RMA, apologies, what was intended and what actually came through the report was not quite one and the same thing, and then we subsequently got some more information which I support the position that we needed to be in. All that paper was intending to do was signal perhaps a direction of travel. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with parties to determine how that will be done, and also not only with our regional colleagues but with our staff to try and unravel where all the moving parts are before we bring the paper back to you, and considering the other stakeholders with next steps and what we would propose to do from there. And as it stands now, it's status quo. It hasn't moved. Regional council staff were keen that we would explore it, but perhaps the paper could have been a little clearer in terms of it looked like it was a fait accompli when in fact there was still work to be done.
Your Worship, so I take it from that then that this was initiated by the Regional Council, which has got itself into a bit of a pickle over the consenting issues.
It was initiated with discussions with staff who were talking about what were some of the complexities of doing it. It wasn't initiated through the formal CE level or the chair level. It was with the conversations with staff who were trying to think of a better way or an improved way of coming forward. I would suggest that there are still some fish hooks that need to be uncovered.
Because I might have been a better way from the Regional Council staff perspective, but hello, what does that mean for our staff and our consenting department? There was a reason why it was given over to the Regional Council to take this function on, and all that needs to be considered. So I'm pleased that you intercepted that and bringing it back.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm keen that I think the staff were working with a good intent. I think there just needs to be a little bit more structure around how we do it so that we make sure we cover off everyone that needs to be done. But the staff were definitely working with the best intent. But there is quite a bit of water to go under the bridge before we come back to you with the paper. Thank you.
I'm sure they had good intentions, but just looking at this superficially, it does look like it was a benefit was one way.
Jane, someone in here says that the original changeover from us to the council was not intended as a permanent transfer. That's not how I recall the conversations, and you may recall also that there was never any time limit, or orientation of a time limit on it, as I recall, but anyway.
This was the 2017 process that we through. Look, happy to include that as part of the paper coming back, Jane. I think it's important to know where all the pieces lie. So the history of it and what's been decoupled and what's been proposed. All of those things need to be part of the paper so you can see.
So all those questions will come back with answers in the paper.
And I like Jane, I'm not sure, I think that we left it pretty much open-ended as to the ability to come back if the need was there, but we never sort of finalised or quantified it at date and time, did we? Well, it wasn't even an expectation that it would come back.
And for the benefit of clarity, a decision of the council would need to be formally rescinded, would it not, for a process like that?
And that's what I want to underline in terms of the paper as well, the actual process.
Okay, show the motion of the council.
Yeah, so that it's really clear about what those steps will be, not just as a data transfer.
No.
So we just need to be really clear.
But you agree with the motion?
And also some answers on if it's not working as it is, why not, and what can be done about it other than answering it back here. That's what
Cool.
And of course, if it were to be transferred back under this roof, what does that mean in terms of staff? Next minute, we're the ones that have to put on extra staff?
There was never an intention there'd be an expanded staffing or anything else, but let's actually unravel it.
Let's start with the first,
and then we'll do
first
it.
steps. Yep. Is everybody happy with that? Can I have someone? Yeah. Can I have someone please move and second that we accept the update from the Chief Executive, please, on the deed of transfer function from RMA? We're just accepting.
Subject to
We're just
the.
accepting the update from.
I'm happy to withdraw the paper and revisit the next one and do it that way if that's suits. It's whatever makes it easier. I think you have had line of sight of the attention. I've now said that we need to come back and do a different a more fuller paper. If we want to do it that way, we can do it, or I can withdraw the paper, whatever makes it easier for you.
Either which way.
I think there's too many questions around it. It's probably good that it's just taken off the table.
I'm happy to withdraw.
Happy to withdraw? All right, thank you. Everybody happy with that? Yes. Yes, and can I have a mover and seconder, please, that we withdraw that? Councillor Neal, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Casson, thank you very much. Those? Cool, thank you very much, everybody. Next report is the Chief Executive Credit Card, Group Manager Corporate Services and Risk Assurance to speak to this item, please, Leslie. Oh, sorry.
Did you say?
No, it's got Group Manager Corporate Services and Risk Assurance to speak to this item. Bit of a
Credit card.
sorry, a bit of a corporate services will take out the risk and assurance to speak to this item. Group Manager to speak to this item.
On the credit card, sorry. Yeah, I will take the report as read, but the Chief Executive has asked for a credit card for when she's travelling or for when required for business purposes only. We generally have never provided a credit card to the Chief Executive because it's a publicly notifiable expense. So at any point in time, anybody can ask for the expenditure and it has to be notified. So it's work having to put that together. So we've just never done it and nobody's ever questioned it. But the Chief Executive would like a credit card. There's no reason, no risk to having one. The limit is 5,000 that we're requesting, so it's not a huge amount.
Through the chair, if I can just perhaps give a little bit fleshed explanation of this. My concern was that the policy we currently have is that you put receipts together, you then submit receipts through a leisure fiche form that then gets reviewed and then signed off. But dependent on the person to gather the receipts, put the receipts together, then that process to get done. My experience has been that actually a credit card, and I'd have to say I've had a lot of experience in terms of it, but in terms of a better business process would be that a credit card actually then is absolutely trackable. There's nothing about receipts that needs to be done. In terms of reportability, I'm surprised that you don't have a quarterly if you require reportability on expenses anyway. I certainly don't have a problem with that. And the other thing is that regardless of what prompted this was that when I went away on travel for the council, I was required to use my business card or my credit card, which is fine usually. And then as I worked it out, I thought, well, hold on, how am I going to hold all of this and then bring it back? And that opens it up, and it could open it up for abilities to be double dipping in terms of receipts, etc. So that was my rationale for why I wanted it. But it's entirely up to you if this is not a process that you focus on before, but it's unusual in my opinion.
I'll move it on.
Comment?
But I think it's probably a little bit demeaning for the Chief Executive to have to come and kick the hands of the councillors who for a credit card, which ought to be a day-to-day tool for our only employee. A lot of other councils around the country do have, the Chief Executive do have a credit card. The fact that this council doesn't or hasn't done as a matter of practice in recent years. I have no explanation for that, but I just think that it's only fair that the chief executive should have credit cards, because if she's going to be appointed officer on a Mediterranean cruise, simply for council business.
I agree that it should be provided, absolutely. I don't think it's demeaning, I think it's vital that it does be, comes to council and be approved, yeah. But
I think Paul's probably more referring to that we haven't actually brought this to the table for now. So, because it's just to support that too, is that one of those trips which was to do with our aviation side of things, I didn't have my credit card with me, and Barb did, so she actually had to cover for me, because you've always got to put you've always got to put something up against your own.
Could have been doing the dishes.
It could have been doing the dishes, so, you know, it's.
So you're on card, Jay?
Can I just suggest so that, to make sure that you do have a line of sight of it, I'm more than happy that we do a quarterly reconciliation and provide that as just part of the CE report. It's not a big deal.
It's pretty trackable. I don't know what we use. Whether we use zero or you've got account statements. I mean, if there's $3,000 at a casino, obviously one of those is raised, but I don't imagine it's going to be the case.
Yeah, much goes back in.
Yeah, well, hey, look,
Completely supportive. Just a question around Wi-Fi. Why not half that? Why not double that? Why not more? Is there a reason we've come to a 5K figure that's not 2.5 or 10 or among other delegations you have?
Standard issue from a bank.
So why Wi-Fi? Why not 2.5 as half that, or twice that, 10K or more among other delegations?
Ask the chief executive, would 5 be suitable? It was just an arbitrary figure.
We had a discussion, there are only there's only one other credit card in the organisation, as far as I'm aware, that is unused, and that is going to be the group manager who holds that with her name, because she has a name for a credit card, but she holds it for IT purchases. The limit for that is $10,000 on that. I think that was previously $5,000 and had to be increased because there was requirements for it to be more, and increasing it was problematic. I personally don't have a view either way. 5,000 seems more than enough for what you'd be asking for. You don't do a lot of travel here. There's not a lot of other things that I would be interested in using here. So I was thinking.
Incidental travel expenses, other things that they pay
Anyway.
But normally when staff are travelling away for work, accommodations are all booked beforehand and paid for.
Usually accommodation and food.
No, it's a normal government contract. We have an agent who arranges all the travel, and it's at preferential prices. And they have a set standard that they have to use for staff. And they also have an out of hours, so if there's an issue with flights being cancelled and needing accommodation or a taxi or something, they can arrange that for you, and you don't have to put it on your personal cards or anything. They'll do that, and it comes back in invoice to us.
But in saying that, I got to Wellington once and my accommodation, I received receipt of it, but they didn't actually have my booking, and I had to pay for it myself, which was fine. But errors can happen.
Make sure you take the credit card.
Yeah. So if there's no further questions on that, resolution is firstly that the report be received. Point 2, council approve a credit card for the chief executive for business use with a credit limit of $5,000. Point 3, council approve the updated wording in the sensitive expenditure policy to include the provision of a credit card for the chief executive. Point 4, council direct staff to update the wording in the delegations manual to include the provision of a credit card for the chief executive. Can I have a move and a seconder, please, for that resolution? Councillor Monero, thank you very much. Councillor Phelps, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Next we have West Road Statement of Intent. Lucy, I believe you're speaking to this item.
Well, I've been asked to write cover reports, but I wasn't at the CCO meeting, so I can't answer any questions on them.
Right.
Other than to say that they've met their obligations under the Local Government Act around providing draft statement of intent to you, and also responding to any amendments you needed. They were provided with letters of expectation through the CCO Oversight Committee from Council, and they have actually ensured that they've updated their final statement of intent to incorporate anything that was required under those letters of expectations.
So is there anything from a financial perspective that needs to be?
Not from me, because I don't have any insight into their financial.
Right, okay. So based on what Leslie can speak to, are there any questions or clarification required on that?
Just comment on page 118.5, governance. They've still got Peter Cuff listed as a board member. My understanding was Peter retired from the board a couple of years ago, so I'm not sure why that's so out of date. So it needs to be corrected, please.
But adopted with that change.
Sorry, Mr. President. Oh, sorry.
Just really one thing from me, on the front cover, is it go to heart?
Yes.
And you just say highlight. Just wondering why, what would go to heart, given all the Westcoast.
We maybe thought about that.
But yeah.
And inside cover, Wanganui River, or far up, sorry. Yeah, pretty pictures though. As far as the CCO Oversight Committee goes, having been given that update from staff and Stephen, and having reflected that earlier, I'm more than happy with his landing and we've been moving going forward.
Righty-ho. So with the amendment on the listing of directors, because they do have currently 3 directors, and that position has been filled as such from Peter Cuff, who resigned last year. We're currently sourcing a replacement for him at the moment. So with the amendment to the directors list, is everybody happy to move and second the result that we received the report and that Council adopt the West Road Statement of Intent for 2026, and that Council direct staff to make the Statement of Intent available on the Western District Council website within 1 month of this date for a period of no less than 7 years. Move a second, please, to that resolution. Councillor Casson. Councillor Gillett. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you very much, everybody. And if you've got that amendment noted. Good. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Destination Westland, Statement of Intent.
So I can only really just repeat what I've said, they've met their obligations.
The CCO subcommittee minutes are circulated. We make them available for other customers. So, yeah, so just in terms of, even though Leslie wasn't available for that meeting, that will be recorded in this one of having some of the detailed discussion was. And in the future, that's when we will be able to they recommended that they come through to us.
Yes, yes. And we also have the same situation with the DW is that the current chair, Chris Gourley, finished at the end of June this week, so and that's at this stage that stands. He is still the chair, and he has agreed in that respect to stay on as advisory. Marie-Louise will go into acting chair, and current chair Chris Gourley will stay on an advisory capacity as a director until such time as replacements are found. So with that, again, the resolution is that the report be received. The council adopt the Destination Western Statement of Intent 2026, and that council direct staff to make the statement of intent available on the Westland District Council website within 1 month of this date for a period of no less than 7 years. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, for that? Thank you, Councillor Fox. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Neal, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried. Right, so with that now, we need to move a resolution to go into the excluded part of the meeting. So can I have a move and a second, please, that we do just that? We go into the excluded section at 2:35 p.m. Councillor Manila, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Phelps, thank you very much. At 2:35. Right, thank you to the members of the public for viewing. Francois, you need to plan the end. Thank you to the members of the public for viewing the live stream, and all those that have attended the meeting that may now be on live stream as well. We will adjourn for 2 minutes to allow the council to disconnect from Zoom before we reconnect via the